This was the aircraft that became a symbol of Britain during World War II. The Supermarine Spitfire was an exceptional fighter plane, so fast and agile that it became a favorite among pilots and, for the public, a machine believed to win wars. But in reality, this aircraft was suffering from a very serious problem. The problem was that the plane's engine would suddenly cut out at the worst possible moment, right when it was dogfighting with a German pilot, especially during steep downward dives. On the other hand, the German Luftwaffe's Messerschmitt Bf 109 had no such issue. Because of this, German pilots often gained the upper hand over British pilots during combat. Britain won the Battle of Britain with extreme difficulty, and one of the biggest reasons was this very flaw in the Spitfire's engine. If Britain wanted a clear victory in the rest of World War II, solving this strange problem in the Spitfire was absolutely critical. They tried everything. Major engineering firms gave it their best efforts, but the issue remained unsolved. Finally, a solution emerged. And it came from a place no one expected. A woman. Beatrice Shilling. What did this woman do to the Spitfire that today she is considered one of the people responsible for the Allied victory in World War II? Once again, welcome to Historical Secrets video. The problem with the Spitfire's Rolls-Royce Merlin engine was first noticed in 1938. At the time, it didn't seem serious because pilots rarely performed aggressive dives before the war. But in 1940, when the Battle of Britain reached its peak, this was no longer just a technical issue, it became a matter of survival. An even bigger concern was that before World War II, the British government had already produced over 20,000 Spitfires. Every single one used the same Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, meaning they all shared the same flaw. The gravity of the situation became clear when the British realized that other RAF fighters, such as the Hawker Hurricane and Bolton-Paul Defiant, also used the same Merlin engine. So now, in the heat of World War II, the Allies were forced to fight using aircraft with a defective engine. In 1940, Nazi Germany was fighting France and Britain. Whenever German pilots crossed into Allied airspace with their Messerschmitt 109s, RAF Spitfires were scrambled to intercept them. Pilots used advanced maneuvers to avoid enemy fire, sudden dives, sharp climbs, common tactics in World War II air combat. Planes could fight for hours, diving to evade bullets and pulling up sharply to line up shots. But in a life-and-death dogfight, what happens if your engine suddenly dies? Luckily, during the Battle of Britain, British pilots had a home court advantage. Their fuel supplies were nearby, allowing longer engagements. German pilots, however, had to cross the English Channel, fight, and then return to base before running out of fuel. This disadvantage likely prevented them from fully exploiting the Spitfire's flaw. The Battle of Britain ended, but the war did not. The Spitfire's engine problem occurred mainly during nose-down dives. When an aircraft falls rapidly in freefall, gravity no longer affects loose substances the same way. Just like blood rushing in a pilot's body, fuel inside the carburetor also behaves differently. Unfortunately, in the Merlin engine, the carburetor's fuel outlets were positioned at the bottom. During a steep dive, fuel moved upward, away from the outlets, cutting fuel supply to the engine. As a result, the engine either stalled completely or began sputtering until the aircraft leveled out again. The world's best minds were assigned to fix this issue, including Sir Stanley Hooker of Rolls-Royce and Eddie Fawcett of the Royal Aircraft Establishment. Both developed clever technical solutions, but both failed. Worse, their fixes introduced new problems. Solving this issue required deep knowledge of engine internals, which is why it shocked everyone when, in 1940, the final and most effective solution came from a woman. Beatrice Shilling. During Spitfire production test flights in 1938, Shilling was rebuilding and testing her favorite machine, a 490 cubic centimeters Norton motorcycle. This was the same bike on which she became the fastest woman rider at the Brooklands racetrack. She was an exceptional racer, but an even better engineer. Her love for motorcycles began in childhood. Around 1919, when she was just 10 years old, she watched her sisters go on cycling trips while she was left behind. She decided then to save money to buy a motorcycle. By age 14, she achieved her goal, buying a two-stroke Royal Enfield. She gradually began fixing mechanical issues herself, eventually becoming capable of completely dismantling and rebuilding the bike. At 15, she decided engineering would be her career, despite the fact that in the 1920s, society barely accepted women as engineers. With the help of the Women's Engineering Society, in October 1929 she enrolled in the University of Manchester, becoming the first woman ever admitted to the electrical engineering department. Later, she also studied thermodynamics and mechanical engineering, her true passion. She raced alongside men at Brooklands, made possible only because she had modified her motorcycle's carburetor to dramatically improve acceleration. She didn't know it yet, but this exact skill would later solve the Spitfire's greatest wartime flaw. Before World War II, Shilling had already spent 3 years working at the Royal Aircraft Establishment. Initially, she handled technical documentation. By November 1939, after multiple promotions, she became a technical officer responsible for carburetor research and development. When Rolls-Royce engineers failed to fix the Spitfire problem, Shilling requested permission to try. At first, she was underestimated simply because she was a woman. But astonishingly, within days, she not only solved the issue but left the authorities embarrassed for doubting her. So what did she do? She designed a small brass restrictor plate with a precisely calculated hole and fitted it into the carburetor. This simple modification largely fixed the problem. Its biggest advantage? It could be installed on the spot, without removing the engine, saving precious time. Shilling personally traveled to different airbases on her Norton motorcycle, installing the fix on Spitfires and Hurricanes. The solution was so successful it became known as Miss Shilling's orifice. Later, she designed a completely new carburetor for the Merlin engine, permanently eliminating the issue. After the war, pilots credited Shilling for her vital contribution. She was awarded the Order of the British Empire, OBE. Rather than retiring, Shilling continued working on advanced military projects. By 1950, her work expanded into rocketry, ramjets, and guided weapons. In 1955, she was promoted to Senior Principal Scientific Officer at the Royal Aircraft Establishment. Beatrice Shilling was not just a mechanic or an engineer, she was an extraordinary character who opened new doors for women in engineering. Even today, it is widely believed that without her, World War II, and the world itself, might have turned out very differently. As the war raged on, the Spitfire continued to be the backbone of Britain's air defence. But Beatrice Shilling's innovation, the small but mighty brass restrictor plate, ensured that the aircraft's engine no longer faltered at the worst possible moment. Thanks to her ingenuity, British pilots could focus on what truly mattered, outmaneuvering their enemies in the skies, not worrying about their engine cutting out in mid-flight. The tides of war had shifted, and this seemingly simple solution played a pivotal role in the Allied victory. It wasn't just a technical achievement, it was a symbolic breakthrough. A woman, against all odds, had stepped up when many doubted her, and in doing so, became one of the unsung heroes of World War II. Her legacy lives on, not only in the Spitfire but in the doors she opened for women in engineering and science. After the war, Shilling's career soared. She didn't rest on her laurels but continued her work in advanced military projects. She was more than a trailblazer, she was a force that changed the course of history. Without Beatrice Shilling's brilliance, the outcome of the war might have looked very different. But her contribution was a testament to the power of innovation, determination, and the fact that greatness can come from the most unexpected places. The Spitfire may have been the symbol of Britain's resilience in the sky, but behind it was the quiet strength of a woman who ensured it stayed airborne. We hope that you liked our video. If you did, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. See you next time in a new amazing video.